Hey folks, this is Rob Baker. I am the KCC, the Celtic Craftsman. Welcome back to Stone Circle Creations. It is that time again. We are going to work on a resin project. We are going to figure out how much resin we can save by adding stuff into the jar so we don't have to use as much resin. By the time I get done adding all of the objects into this cup, I should be able to fill this up almost to the top just with these two cups. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to add some objects into our resin that is turnable on a lathe. I do not know what the name of this wood is. If somebody knows, please tell me. All I know is it is a very, very hard wood. It's got this beautiful dusky red color to it. The bark came off very easily. It's almost like a pine bark, but not. And I honestly don't know what it is. My wife, during one of the storms a couple of years back here in Arizona, saw somebody taking down a fallen tree, and they had some rounds set off to the side, and my wife says, "Oh, what are you going to do with those?" They were going to throw them away, so she grabbed a few of them and threw them in the back of the pickup truck. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The reason I say that is because if you look on my website and you take a look at two of the first videos that I actually posted here on Stone Circle Creations, is a little candle holder for my son and a little dice cup for my daughter. Both of those are using the wood that I hold in my hand, or the type of wood that I hold in my hand. One of the reasons I like it so much is because of the character that it has in the grain. This is not by any means a straight grained wood. It took me hours to split up a stump round, or not even a stump round, just a round that was that big around, and that is with a mallet and an axe, holding one to the wood and walloping away with the other. So I do have a chopping axe, but all that did was bounce. Yeah, that's how hard the wood is. So it's really interesting to use this wood with resin. It's got a beautiful color. The wood has a lot of character, and we're going to add a bunch of the small chip-off pieces that I had from that round into this jar. Then we're going to add the resin, put it into the pot, and see what we can come up with on the lathe. I'm thinking of making a small lidded pot out of this time around, but we will see what it decides to turn into when we get it on the lathe. So hang on tight. We're going to put on some music, we're going to kick back, we're going to relax, and we're going to have some fun. Thanks for joining us. Well, I just made a thorough mess trying to be quick. You'll notice that I put a lid on this particular one. Main reason is because wood floats. Simple as that. And because wood floats, it lowers my resin level. I have wood sticking out that doesn't look good. So what I did, put the lid on, that packs the wood back down, raises my resin level up, gets a little closer to the top. Now you'll notice I also have holes in this lid. Main reason for that is because resin has an endothermic reaction. Okay, endothermic means it internalizes the heat, cooks itself. Anyhow, because of that reaction, if I leave that lid on without any holes, it's going to blow the lid off and overflow. And it's going to overpressurize the jar and cause it to melt. So this allows the steam and such to escape, because this will get warm very quickly. Into the tank it goes. And I hope you noticed that I filled up one of my little overflow cubes here. It's actually kind of a good thing I did, because if I hadn't, I actually would have overflowed the resin pour. Now the reason I'm doing that that little resin cube, that little resin casting cube, is earlier on this week I was messing around with some glow-in-the-dark resins, or some glow-in-the-dark powders, and that is an upside-down mountain scene. When it cured, it looked like it had snow caps that were glowing. So I added that light blue resin to mix in with that. Now it's going to look like a frozen glacier. It's going to look cool once it's cured. So let's go ahead, seal up the pot. Let me line up my arrows here, make sure that I don't have any chance of a high pressure leak. By the way, when you make this tank yourself, do make sure that you do something to that effect. There is a little arrow that I have painted right here on the side of my tank. Let me raise my camera a little bit so you can see a little bit better. I've got a little arrow right here on my tank that lines up with the arrow on the lid. When you first get this tank, that's not good, it will have several leaks in it. You have to rotate the lid and pressure test it each time to find the sweet spot that doesn't leak. I wish I had known that when I made this. I thought I had a faulty seal. So what I did is I turned around and I siliconed the entire inside of the seal to make sure I didn't have any air leaks. That didn't work. So having found my sweet spot now, I know I can take my air pressure, my air tank up to 45, almost 50 psi, which is the perfect pressure for shrinking bubbles, as I have said before. So we get a nice, clean turning blank. Let's go ahead, hook up the line, and start to pressurize. Here we go. Nice and easy, no fast air. Here's 20 psi. Got to shift a little bit so I can read the gauge. Here's 40 psi. And there's a little bit of an air leak there, but it backs down to 40 psi and it stabilizes. 40 psi is okay. We'll go ahead, pop the line. I grab myself a paper towel so I can clean off the bottom of my resin tank, and set it down on the floor and let it cure for about 4 or 5 hours. Again, that's the nice thing about these resin tanks. They do cure your resins quickly. I just have to make sure I don't spill it. Off to the side it goes, down on the floor, out of the way of everybody. Oh dear Lord, look what I did to my table. You like my cloth though? Kind of an ugly, bright, horrid, I want to say baby puke, greenish yellow. It looks like something, I'm not going to go there, it's just too wrong for words. This little thing I've got here on my table is actually designed for having kids, for crafting. It is called a splat mat. It's by Creatology. I'll actually hold it up for you. My wife found this. I can't remember if she found it at Michael's or Dollar Tree, but the splat mat by Creatology, it is a very large silicone, very thin silicone mat. Now, I did an experiment with this mat earlier today with some UV resin to see if it actually worked. And surprise, surprise, once the resin had cured, and UV resin cures fairly quickly in about 45 minutes under UV light, the resin just peeled right off. So it is something worth investing in if you're doing resin projects and you want to keep a clean work area after you're done, because you'll be able to pull this off, let it dry, let it cure, peel it clean. All right, that's enough for right now. We're going to come back in a few hours for you, a few seconds, and we'll get this thing decanted. We'll take a look at what we've got and see if we can slap it on the lathe and see what it becomes. See you in a few. I have found the absolute limit of resin. This is not necessarily a good thing. Yeah, helps if I sit closer to my table. You see, when I turned this bowl out, or actually when I turned this little jar out, I made a mistake and I took the resin way too thin. And part of the problem that I had is the bowl started warping, and I thought I had made an absolute error. When I took this thick piece and turned it into a jar, I thought I would have thick enough walls, but the more I would see through them, I got hypnotized by that clear resin and being able to see the wood float in the project. And unfortunately, I took that way too far. So I decided I'd stop for a couple of days. I took it inside and took a break. Did some wet sanding on it and some polishing. Now this is an absolute mistake. Please don't get me wrong, but you know what? I'm going to do something different. Let me come around there for a moment. I'm going to grab my video rig here. Pardon the bumpy ride. And I'm going to show you what it turned into. Because it started out, well, just like that. Simple piece of resin. And I have this lit because I want you to see. See if I can get away from some of that glare. You can actually see the depth in it. And this thing is transparent all the way through. You can see the little wobble in it, and yes, that is part of the error. You can see how it got so warm that it started to lose its cylindrical shape right there on the left, and it'll be coming around onto the right. There, you can see where the lip kind of sticks out. But all told, it turned into something absolutely magnificent. I mean, the color in it, the depth is absolutely stunning. It's a very beautiful piece, and I can't call it a mistake. I can call it imperfect, yes, but I can't call it a mistake. Let me show you something. You can actually see, whoops, sorry, a little blurry there. The wood just floats. And I think that's absolutely amazing, the way this came out. Let me see if I can get the lid off for you, because I do want you to see. Oh, this is always going to be the difficult part. I have to set my phone down for a minute. Ah, there we go. Because unfortunately, I also made the lid too tight. Why don't you take a look at this? There's a stone called labradorite. It's a very beautiful stone. How did I do that? And it has these little inclusions that refract the light. Now, if you get this in resin, it's because you had a crack, or the resin just hyperheated and hypercooled and crystallized. But when the light hits it, it looks, well, it looks like, I don't know, like a sycamore seed or a fairy's wing or a dragonfly wing. It's absolutely beautiful. And those little inclusions, those little imperfections, just make it a beautiful thing. So if you're trying experiments, don't throw away your mistakes. Because mistakes are what make us who we are. And mistakes aren't always mistakes. They can be very, very beautiful pieces of art. that's what I've got. It's pretty cool, huh? Put this back on the mount for you. Get you back in your stationary position. Ugh. Okay. Sorry, we went a little blurry there. So, shut my little light off here. As you can see, some things, even when they're mistakes, can turn out very, very beautiful. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to try. And definitely, definitely try your hand at anything, because you never know what you might be good at. This is Rob Baker. I'm the KCC, your kilted Celtic craftsman. It's been a couple of days and this video's been on the way for a while, and I apologize that it took so long. But I hope you think that it was worth it. If you like what I do, sorry, let me readjust my seat so I don't fall down while I'm trying to talk. If you like what I do, if you think I'm worth the time, go ahead and hit the like button. If you want, hit the subscribe button and ring that bell. That way you get notifications every time I put up a new video. I do about one a week, even though I've got 3 or 4 going at the same time. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Thank you for spending some time with me, and in the words of 2 goofy guys back in the 80s, be excellent to each other. I'm Rob Baker. Thanks for joining in. Night, y'all.